All right. I just turned up my AC. I'm about to die. Hold on.
No dying. You're not allowed
It's
to die
really,
on the show.
it's
Although,
really hot.
I wonder what that would do for the ratings. How
I
many downloads would there be
mean,
if you actually just keeled over in the middle of the show? This is the episode that killed Andrea. That would be horrible.
I would definitely tune in to see what it was that finally did me in,
It's
but I feel
we
like it
would
would be
be
kind of sad.
we would actually be branching out. We'd be
I hope it
evolving.
would be
We'd be
sad.
becoming part of the true crime family of
I
podcasts.
guess.
Opens up this
And they'd be
whole
knocking
new
on your
audience.
Zoom door.
True crime, pool crime. I could put up a murder board behind me. We could
True
try to
crime,
figure it all
pool
out with the
crime.
yarn and all that stuff. I think that would be cool. Did you see?
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you know this or not, but you and I, with ESPN or whatever it is that we have running through our brains, managed to predict that the Thursday co-host, Steve Sherwood, would get stung by a stingray. Because didn't we just talk about that?
I did. Yeah, you were accusing me of molesting stingrays, and you kept saying that I was going to get bit by a stingray, which
I was going
stingray
to correct you,
they
but
don't bite.
molesting stingrays sounds so exciting. I'm just going to let it go with that. So
I
yes, you
mean,
are the stingray molester.
no, I am not. I've only accidentally stepped on them a couple of times. You got to do the stingray shuffle when you're in
Well,
shallow water. Steve, do you hear me? Stingray shuffle. That's how you don't
he
get
did not.
stung.
He wasn't aware of the stingray shuffle, so we said, "Hey, you were going to get bit by a stingray," and I said that, yeah, that bite, whatever, blah 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 blah. Anyway, what was it, like 2 days later after our episode? Boom! Steve gets stung by a stingray in his foot, and according to him,
Yep, I
the
saw that.
barbs are still in there. I think, yeah, you have to remove that shit, don't you? I think you
That
do.
sounds uncomfortable. Well, he
So for
said
most
because
of
of the
you,
nerve or something.
any of you out in the
Close
field,
to it.
in your trucks, I know you have a pair of channel locks. That's all you need to fix everything. Stingray barb in your foot,
Yes.
no problem. Channel locks, right? I'm telling you, that'll do it.
I feel
The
like
only
I I feel like no. I feel like don't perform minor medical procedures inside your work truck. Just go, to a walk-in clinic somewhere maybe that's close by.
It depends on the
Because
injury.
you
That
could
was his
pull
foot.
something out. You could rip out some veins. You could definitely rip out chunks, cause more damage. Don't take medical
Good
advice from Rudy.
Samaritan law. That's all I have to say. 3 words.
It's
Good Samaritan law. I had a tech. We were at this pool. It was a foreclosed property. Pool sat vacant 7 years. I mean, it was to the point where they'd actually added tilapia fry, which is teeny weeny little fishies, to this pool to combat the
like, is
mosquito
that a
problem.
type of
And we
breading?
were pulling out fish that were 10 inches long. So these things had grown and they were thriving. So anyway, there was a bamboo garden somewhere right alongside of it. And the landscapers came through, cut it all at 45-degree angles. And it was just under the sand at 45-degree angles. So my guy, he's wearing sneakers, actually
So
wearing
like,
sneakers, not flip-flops, Crocs, or any other unapproved shoes, stepped on it, went through his foot, came out the top.
wasn't that something they did in one of the world wars or the Vietnam War or something like that?
Oh, Vietnam, yeah, they made a lot of traps with wooden spikes. They
Yeah.
did. We actually learned how to build some of those. So I have learned and can actually set up a Malaysian fly swatter with a tripwire, which is always fun for parties. But in this case,
Yeah.
you know what saved them? Channel locks. Channel locks and duct tape. And he was a trooper because he wanted to continue doing pools the rest of the day. But I said no, because, liability. I sent him to the Doc in the Box on the corner. Yep, and they took care of him and wrapped them all up, and he was good to go. But that was an awful thing. See, he's actually wearing the correct shoes and impaled.
Well,
his name
that's
was
good
Chad.
for him. I mean, I guess if you're
Chad
gonna have your foot impaled, at least you were wearing the protective footwear so that nobody could go, oh, well, why weren't you wearing it? Bitch, I was. See, me, I have stepped on thorns, and I used to go barefoot cleaning pools, and I was crazy back in my younger days, and I had a really bad day where I stepped on a thorn, and then I did something else to my foot. I had like this gigantic thorn inside of my toe, and then I did something else I cannot even remember, but I didn't go barefoot after that, but I still don't wear like boots either. So
well, I broke the rules. I broke the rules.
Now I'm going to hurt my fucking self. Thank you for making me where's some, I need some
Jinx,
wood or some sage or something. You're going to make me, now I'm going to fuck myself up tomorrow.
Well, what's on your
feet? My week is going to continue, go down the toilet drain.
But what's on your feet right now? What are you wearing? You're wearing boots, right?
I'm not telling. I'm not saying
you're wearing
anything.
Sneakers. At least you're wearing good quality sneakers, right?
Well, since I'm sitting here in my truck, I've taken all of my shoes off. So right now I'm barefoot.
All two of them?
We could just move on. Yes.
All of my shoes, all two of them? There you go. So
I wear double pairs of shoes. Thank you.
Ooh-wee. Summer's here. And sometimes you just gotta jump in a little pool to cool down and keep on going. Let's go. Next one. Let's keep going.
Tip of the day is brought to you by Coachella Valley Pools of Instagram.
Are you looking to upgrade your pool game? Well, you might want to check out Raypak's latest heat pump pool heating solution, Crosswind V. Picture this, a sleek, modern design that'll make your backyard the envy of the neighborhood with its contemporary look. Not to mention, this pool heater comes with an advanced control system with easy installation and best-in-class serviceability, so you don't have to stress about a thing. Visit www.raypak.com/crosswindv to learn more about how this product will elevate your pool heating experience and bring you peace of mind in every swim moment.
anyway, so I was looking at something the other day, and I was thinking, and it was kind of crazy because the education in the industry, the way it works. And I know Steve and Wayne were speaking about education yesterday and their perspective on it, but I had a different thought because, it was 7 years ago now, when I went and samples of black algae and proved without a doubt that this was cyanobacteria, not algae. And it was a bacteria.
7 years ago?
Yeah, it was a while ago. Fast. And we put that information out in a ton of different places. I have a paper on ResearchGate. I had a whole bunch of things throughout the industry in different publications. Across Facebook, we shared that. I thought it was pretty much getting to the point where it was common knowledge. But anytime I see someone ask a question, it's like, hey, I got black algae in my pool. Ultimately, 3 or 4 people will come back and say, well, if it's rooted in, and I just think to myself, when do I get tired of telling people there are no fucking roots? Because there are no fucking roots. I've taken pictures under a microscope and showed people this is a bacteria. Bacteria do not have fucking roots. It's a cyanobacteria biofilm is what it is. It's slimy. It sticks to shit. It's the outer wall of the cell that enables it to stick to a surface. No fucking roots. But why doesn't everybody know that after 6 years?
I just came up with a question. I can't tell you why. Actually, I can tell you why. It's because, no, don't let me forget about it. It's about pitting and the black algae. We've talked about it before. But to answer your question is that people just don't want to change the way that they think, and they don't want to change any of their ideas. I saw themselves. I saw a post about black algae, and anytime I see a post about black algae, I always see comments where people say, use black algatrine, use silver algatrine, use black algadyne. I've never heard of those two products. I've never heard of them here. I don't know if they're called something different. I don't know if they're different ingredients. I have no clue about them, but that's one of the most common answers. I also see people say, the roots, it's got roots, you have to kill the roots, it's like herpes for the pool, once you get it, it's forever, blah, 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 blah. In fact, I just saw somebody say that yesterday. My question is, it doesn't have roots, it's slimy and it gets up into places, but doesn't it also leave a little bit of a scar if you've removed it from the plaster, because doesn't it eat
does, and I have
the ingredients that is in the plaster? So my question to you is if the algae is there and it's sat there, especially if it's sat there for a really long time, let's say it's been there for a long time, you go and successfully remove it with however your method of removal is. We all know I love trichlor. So let's say I go and I remove the algae. Now there would be pitting where the algae was, correct? Like tiny little pits now, because the algae
I've
ate
seen this as well.
away some of the silica. I'm asking you to clarify. I'm not saying I've seen it, but so
I've
then
seen
my
surface
question is,
blemishes.
would the black algae, since it's not rooted, but could it still, even if I've blasted it with trichlor, could it still have survived a little tiny bit inside that pit and then come back in that same exact place? Not not come back as if it's the same algae, but regrow in that same spot because there's still a little bit left and it has that ideal condition now because it's in a little tiny.
Yes. And that little tiny pit gives it walls that protect it. And if you only kill what's exposed, then yeah, there could be something behind it. And what could be behind it is more cells, not roots, just cells.
So there could be some little bit of it left, like up, say, if you magnify that pit and say there's a little ledge or something that and you've got like a sort of cave type overhang situation inside this tiny little microscopic pit. You could have some of that algae that didn't necessarily get eradicated all the way, and it's going to come back. Right? Did I word it right? Does that make sense?
Yes, you did. Actually, you did perfectly. I don't know if those blemishes could actually create a pinhole. I don't know. We'd have to look at that with something that we'd have to put it under a microscope, the surface, and see what it actually really leaves behind, because we've not gone that far into the blemishes that are left. I have theories on why.
Yeah,
but
it does come back.
If you have a pool that needs to be replastered, then you definitely have those pinholes where it gets like the surface of an English muffin with all the little nooks and crannies.
Right, exactly.
Now,
that's what I was thinking.
Picture you have a round ball, and then all of a sudden you stick another round ball next to it, and then another one next to that, and another one next to that. This is what you're getting. So you have a cell. The cell divides. Now you have 2 cells. It divides. Then you have 4 cells. This is how this grows. But it's cell on top of cell on top of cell on top of cell. It's not a root, but it can be a strand of cells. And if there's a pinhole, you're correct. It can fill that pinhole. Then you treat the water. You kill everything in the pool. But this cell is like, 5, 6, 10 cells deep. So you've killed the one at the very surface. You still have 9 cells in the wall of that pool. And yes, but the problem is not that the black algae rooted. The problem is that pool did need to be otherwise there wouldn't be pinholes.
That makes sense. Right.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point. That is a fabulous point. But the problem is the myths persist.
Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Like, for example, the ability to lower total alkalinity without affecting pH, depending on how you add your dose of acid.
No way that's still going on.
People still talk about it all the time, the acid slug.
I haven't.
Or the column. They'll call it the columns sometimes. And that's what they believe. They believe if you pour muriatic acid all slowly into one spot, you'll burn off bicarbonate like crazy, drop the total alkalinity very quickly without having much of an effect on the pH. And then vice versa. If you want to lower the pH without dropping the total alkalinity, we broadcast the dose across the surface. The chemistry behind it tells us that's impossible. Muriatic acid is hydrochloric acid. The formula is HCl. Every time I add HCl to water, hydrochloric acid, the result will be the same no matter how I add it. It will dissociate into hydrogen and chloride.
That would be like saying that that would be like saying that if I took my half and half and I poured it into my coffee all in the same column that it's still half and half. But if I poured it around more along the surface, that now it's skim milk. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. So hydrochloric acid, we add it to water, it becomes hydrogen ions and chloride ions. pH is the measurement of hydrogen ion activity. It is impossible to add hydrogen ions and not affect the hydrogen ion activity. That would be like if I said, here's a hamburger Happy Meal. I want you to eat the entire thing, but you can't eat the hamburger. But when you're done, you must have eaten the entire thing. Is that possible? No.
I mean, that's one of those, like, 4 people are in a room and one of them is Santa Claus and one of them is, I get it.
I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm not finishing the joke because I was going to finish the joke and say something funny, but I decided not to, that it might not be that funny. So
Russian and a Catholic priest go into a bar. That's all I heard from that.
And now an excerpt from this month's Virtual Independent Pool and Spa Service Association chapter meeting on how to fight back against internet sales by exploring e-commerce with Samantha Tagues of Easy Blue.
Welcome to the 5th IPSA virtual meeting. We call ourselves Cat 4 because I don't know what we'll leave in our wake, but what we do hope to do is elevate and educate everyone. That's the goal. The plan here is to reach out to areas where existing chapters don't exist, to bring the benefits of the IPSA program to those areas, but we don't want to leave anybody out. So anybody anywhere in the world that wants to attend, listen to what we have going on, gain some education, right? Maybe some things that you can apply to your own business. We're definitely happy to have you here as well. There's a big African dust storm out there floating over the Caribbean and the Gulf, which will wreak havoc on your pools to one extent or another. So before we do jump into this, just a heads up on that. I want to point out that African dust storm every year is credited with 70% of the fertilization of the Amazon area in South America. Well, guess what? It's landing all along the Gulf Coast too. And I know a lot of you guys are there. Do keep in mind that it's not just phosphates that travel in this dust storm. That's the main source of fertilizer in that dust storm is orthophosphates. But we also do have diatom spores, and diatom is the family that mustard algae belongs to. So not only is it feeding it, it's depositing it. It's like this whole full service mess up the swimming pool thing going on. So be on top of your game as we roll into these following weeks. I know it's been here for a minute. I hear there's another big one behind it. So just be on the watch for that. And as long as we take a proactive approach, it should go extremely smoothly for us. So with that said, no other items on the agenda for the IPSA meeting. I would like to welcome to our meeting, Samantha Teague. She's with Easy Blue, but she also has a long history of e-commerce, and that's why she's here today. She's going to talk to us about how to fight back. Everybody's always asking, everybody's always wondering, how do we compete with the internet? She's going to show us how to infiltrate the internet, because we all know back ever since the Trojan horse days, that was the best way to do it. Get inside, learn what they know, take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. It's not going away, so it's not a bad idea to see how we can become a part of it. Samantha has a long background in e-commerce, Estee Lauder, a couple of other big companies that have large website presences, e-commerce presences, and that's where she's going to be taking us today. So with that said, Samantha, everybody say hello. Samantha, please take it away. It's your meeting from here forward.
Thanks, Rudy. I always get like shy during an introduction. I feel like I'm blushing. Hello, everybody. So as Rudy said, my name is Samantha, and I come from an e-commerce background. I have worked for over 9 years, which I cannot believe, in e-commerce. And one of the funny things about e-commerce is it's kind of like the pool service industry, where you find yourself falling into it without intending to. So it's a really awesome community to join or get involved in. You don't have to have studied necessarily something in e-commerce to dabble and learn and become an expert in it. And it's really accessible, especially with all of the new programs that have been designed, all of the new opportunities and ways. So I'm going to try as much as possible to cover the things top level that will help you, interest you. And then if you have any other questions after this presentation, please feel free to join. Please feel free to reach out. As far as the accent, I'm originally from South Africa. People typically try to place it, so I try to get it out the way by telling you where I'm from. Not New Zealand or the UK, South Africa. And I'm currently in Houston, Texas, working with Easy Blue. So why should you consider e-commerce? E-commerce is a growing industry. It really boomed over COVID, obviously, because we were all stuck in our homes. It's sort of like gotten back to reality since then, but still continuing to grow and is very much going to be part of our future and our children's future. Why e-commerce for pool pros? Well, you guys have existing knowledge that people in the e-commerce industry don't have. Yes, we have all the tools to sell on various platforms, but we don't know the first thing about the pool industry. And that's really where you guys shine, and you have so much to offer. Like an idea that Rudy and I were chatting about is the incredible invention of the cyclone cleaning filter cleaner. Like that's something that could only have been invented by a pool guy and his knowledge. And it's an incredible product that would do really well and does, I imagine, do very well in e-commerce. You're also able to offer specialized products and services that someone that does not have your background has. So that just gives you the edge over people who typically would have knowledge in the industry, in the e-commerce industry, but not necessarily in the pool industry. And then something else that's pretty cool is if you are selling something that's consumable, it could set you up for recurring sales. So it's something that you could continue doing while you're on vacation. If you're in the service industry, you actually have to be present to clean the pools. But if you're selling something, not necessarily. So it gives you that hands-off edge that you may want, and the potential for something to continue over time. So today I'm going to be talking about different models of e-commerce. When you hear the word e-commerce or selling online, your brain typically defaults to, I have something, I want to sell it. And that's kind of like where it ends. But there's so much more to e-commerce than just having a product and selling it. There's completely different ways that you can sell things, different things that, I mean, even I, to this day, I'm learning that you can sell and make it a profitable business out of. Has anybody on the call ever done any form of e-commerce before? You can just like raise your hand or put in the chat if you haven't. Yeah, Joy, Scott, do you guys feel comfortable sharing, just out of curiosity? You can probably just put it in the chat. Rudy, do you mind reading out anything in the chat? Because I can see everyone's faces, but I can't see the chat bar.
If anybody wants to ask their question in the chat, as Samantha said, feel free to go ahead. If you want to share your e-commerce experience, also, please don't hesitate to either raise your hand and we'll open your mic, or we can talk about it in the chat and I will read it to her. Right now, Samantha, we don't have anything in that chat.
I'll carry on, but if you guys have anything you want to share, just add it.
Scott, what did you do? Talk to me, man. Come on. I want to know about it. I don't do e-commerce. Talk to me.
I think he's still on mute.
We got to unmute you. You got yourself muted there. We're still muted a second there, Scott. So you're gonna have to do that.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There you go.
There we go. All right. I thought you were gonna unmute me, Rudy.
I can't from this end because it just is. This is Scott Trafton with Pool Shark H2O. Scott.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we work with Lamont. So we sell the consumable discs for the spin touch testers. So we actually put up a store for our clients this year just because to make it faster for them and faster for us to box them up and ship them out.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's one of your consumable. Actually, probably fits reselling and drop shipping, and
that's the perfect example of something that can have longevity to it. It doesn't have to be a one and done. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I might pick on you as we go forward.
That's fine.
Thank you, Scott. Joy, what are you selling? Help us out.
I'm here. I'm a little full disclosure. I'm not actually in the pool industry. Rudy's my husband.
She's kind of in the pool industry.
I'm kind of in the pool industry because of our joint ventures, but most of my e-commerce is in my day job. So I sell products online all the time. It's kind of similar to CPO classes type of thing, except it's in the accounting and the aviation industry.
Awesome.
So we sell products in that way with a full shopping cart, a whole line of various products. And I've also used e-commerce in the past through a different lifetime in philanthropy, where we could present opportunities to people or publish different things for events and that type of thing, so people could purchase in those ways, just expanding the reach instead of just the people that we're in contact with. It's a nice way to do that. Scott's doing that well.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that like some of you have some experience. That's always like fun for when we get later down the line and you have questions.
Sam, I'm going to interject one more time. I'm going to interject one more time because I want to put Gregory on the spot just because I know him fairly well. And Gregory, I'm just going to challenge you, just come up with a couple of things that you think you could do well with. Don't tell me right now. Just think on it as we go through this, because I'm going to circle back to you and see what we can cut. I want to leave here with some item that you can work with this. So let's circle back after Sam's done.
Okay. So basically what I'm getting at is when you hear the word e-commerce, it can sound like it's quite simple. It's just have the product, sell it online, but there's actually so many ways that you can do it, and it's really fun. And if you really think out of the box, there's a lot of creative ways that you could get involved. Key considerations for your e-commerce business model are: how hard is it going to be? Is it going to take a bunch of time? Do I have that much time to start doing it? Do I have the money to get it started? Like, is it at all achievable? Some of them are way easier and take a lot less time. Some of them really are going to swallow up all your time, and it's going to be your primary job, most likely. So looking at all the different options of business models, there's some that might be a little bit easier to dabble in and others to like completely dive in. Transitioning, is it something that you could do? Could you start off small and then scale up big? Could you do multiple things together? That's something to consider. And defensibility is really, it's so disheartening when you come up with an idea that you think is fantastic and then something changes and it all falls apart. I told Rudy the story, my first ever business when I was 19 years old. I was buying makeup cosmetics from the US and shipping them to South Africa and selling them there. And for 3 months, everything was incredible. I thought I was a genius. I was going to be like, the next Elon Musk of sorts. And I was so very proud of myself. And the very next month, one of the biggest couriers in South Africa announced a new courier system where you could order from the US and have it directly sent to your home in South Africa. And it basically killed my business overnight. So needless to say, I'm not the next Elon Musk. But there's so many things that could happen. And it's really like something to consider when you are going with a business. How easily can it be copied? How vulnerable is it to certain environmental situations? And so we're going to dive into each e-commerce model. The first one is called drop shipping. That was something that was like pretty new to me. And it's something that could be really cool for someone who already has an existing storefront, someone who has an awesome blog that people like to visit, influencers of sort. Basically, you have your page or your website online, and you can list all of the different products that you want to sell. But when that product gets purchased, you hand the order over to the person that makes it. So I don't know why in my head I always pick on them, so sorry. But Ledge Lounger, if you have a beautiful online store and you have a physical store and you sell all these different pool products, but you don't have space to fit the beautiful big Ledge Loungers, they take up a lot of floor space. you could use your online presence to sell the ledge loungers and then get Ledge Lounger to actually fulfill those products for you directly to the consumer. So I have a little triangle there. If you're able to see, your website goes to the supplier, they fulfill it. It's great because it's super easy to get into. You don't have to buy the inventory. You don't have to worry about the fulfillment. You can be completely remote. You can be sitting in Hawaii and getting your orders and they're getting sent off from Ledge Lounge and you don't have to worry about it. But it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some, downsides to it. It can be easily copied. So you're going to have to, build your online brand, make sure people want to shop at your store. Why do they want to shop at you and not Amazon? Why do they want to buy from you and not somebody else that's popular? It's not the easiest. It's obviously an option. But there is issues with that. There's also complexity. If you're going to have one product, it's really easy because you're only speaking to Ledge Lounge. If you're going to have about 100 products, you're not going to be speaking to all these different retailers and making sure that they are, holding up their end of the deal, sending out the product on time, sending out products that have no issues. It depends on the product, but it is possible that you will have low margins. It'll just sort of be a commission basis. So when I was writing this, I was like, oh, I don't want to generalize, but typically this kind of model has lower margins than other models. And you also lack the control. So for example, if the manufacturer is not shipping in a timely manner, you're going to get the flack from the consumer, but you actually physically have no control over how they fulfill that item. If they're sending damaged goods, again, you're going to get the flack from the consumer, but you don't have the option to like really go into the fulfillment center and see what your inventory looks like. Is it damaged or not? So you relinquish that control for the benefits. It's just something, some good sides, some bad sides. Drop shipping is also very typical of big marketplaces. So for example, Walmart, you can sign up to Walmart Marketplace if you have a product, and the type of selling that you do is called drop shipping. So someone goes onto the Walmart website, they type in your product, they buy it, but you are the one that ships it, not Walmart. So in that case, you are the drop shipper through Walmart, and you can do the same thing on Amazon. You can do the same thing on Target Plus, and there's other various websites that will allow you to be the drop shipper. So that's kind of the reverse of you being the manufacturer and using drop shipping to get your inventory or products to the end consumer. Anybody got any questions on drop shipping before we move on? No? Okay. You can always ask at the end. Don't be shy.
I'm taking a look just so that you're aware. I'm looking at Facebook as well, and there are quite a few people watching on Facebook. And if anybody there has questions that haven't yet joined this group, if you do ask your questions in the chat on Facebook, in the feed, I will relay them to Sam and make sure that she gets those as well.
Well, thanks, Rudy. Yeah, button anytime. I'm just going to be yakking off like a broken record. So, alrighty, reselling. That is basically when you buy something, it's already made, it's already branded, you don't change a single thing and you resell it again. Kind of like if you were to sell something on Facebook Marketplace. You buy it and you're like, man, you can buy it and you mark it up. Benefits of this is you buying a ready-made product. So a lot of people will do this when they, an example that came up was in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, one of the service guys said, I really want to buy in bulk, like tons and tons of chlorine, but I can't use it all and I want to sell some of it off. So his plan was basically to buy the chlorine in bulk and then resell the exact same product without changing a single thing at like a slight profit to the other pool guys. It would still be a discount from what they would get it at the retailer. But basically he was just going to be like the point of contact for them to get the cheaper chlorine by buying it in bulk. That is not necessarily the only use case for this. There's actually a lot, but that was just the one that came to mind. So you don't have to invest in R&D. You don't have to invest in branding. You don't have to invest in marketing. You just simply buy a product that already exists and then resell it. What's nice about that is if you're only selling one product, this is like in comparison to drop shipping, you're only selling it from one place. So you have the product in your one warehouse and you send it off. You're not having to figure out multiple warehouses. You're not having to coordinate different people. It's one warehouse. It's a single source of fulfillment. There is the opportunity for larger margins. An example that comes to my mind is if you buy skimmer baskets off Alibaba, you can probably get millions of them for hardly any money at all, get them sent over here, and then you could resell those for a couple of dollars. Or again, like I'm sort of just like pulling ideas as they come to me. But that's an idea of an opportunity for larger margins. And your overheads are flexible. If you are buying lots of products, you'll have, to pay to look after that. But if you're not buying a lot of stuff, your overheads are slim. You can keep the products in your garage. You don't need to pay for special warehousing or special attention. It's just really up to you how much you want to spend. You have a lot of control. The downside is anybody can do it. It can be really easily copied. Anyone can buy something off Alibaba, mark it up and resell it. And so you don't have that safety net that keeps you safe from other people doing the same thing as you, especially if it's a good idea. And it could be capital intensive if it's something like you need to buy 1 million units and you're taking the risk of buying those 1 million units to resell them again in the States. So that is pros and cons of reselling. White labeling is super interesting because it's kind of like reselling and it's kind of like manufacturing. It's a bit of both. White labeling is when you buy an existing product, but you change it so that it's your brand. So I think Pincher Penny and other brands like that do white labeling where they buy a product from a manufacturer and then they put on Suncoast chlorine, but it's actually the same as, this is not true at all. It's just an example. It could be exactly the same as HTH chlorine because they buy it from HTH, but it says Suncoast chlorine because they've now rebranded it to their name. That is how white labeling would work. Typically you'll buy it from, a manufacturer that does white labeling. Occasionally you can reach out to a business that makes their own brand and ask them if they, would offer white labeling services. And then you come up with your own branding and you sell it as your own product. The nice thing about that, again, you don't have to, I keep saying this, you guys would not believe how expensive R&D is. So it's really a pro if you don't have to invest in R&D, which is research and development. Sorry, I shouldn't abbreviate. You don't have to invent something from scratch. It already exists. It's proven. You can look at the reviews. You can see if people like it, and you don't have to be the guinea pig. But then you get to come up with a beautiful brand that looks amazing, that could potentially sell better to the end consumers than the existing brand, or a different type of person. Like maybe moms really like pink chlorine and no one's ever sold a chlorine in a pink bottle before. Like you never know. And then again, you have the option to send it directly from one source. If you have it in your warehouse, you again are not having to deal with the logistics of multiple warehouses and multiple people. Again, you have the opportunity for larger margins with white labeling. And because you own your brand, someone can't copy you. Yes, they can sell chlorine. Yes, they can sell chlorine in a pink bottle, but they can't steal your name if it's trademarked. And so you have that control over, which you wouldn't have if you were reselling somebody else's brand. The downside is you're going to have to create a brand. That's only a downside if you don't want to. If you do like branding and love graphic design and coming up with a concept, then that's more of a benefit rather than a downside. And it could potentially, this is a potential, could be capital intensive depending on what the product is that you are choosing to sell. I'm going to pause for questions before I move on. Anybody curious? I know Rudy's favorite brand ever, Pool Day, does white labeling. So, okay. No questions.
We can white label the How to Get Rid of Algae book. Scott, the H2O How to Get Rid of Algae book. I'm okay with that. We can talk. We'll talk. But yeah, white labeling is a good thing. I have had to do R&D at companies before. It is extremely expensive. And then the testing of the products following it, that's the huge part. You can source everything, you can put it all together, but when you go to have tests designed.
Yeah, and then all the approvals post that.
Right. If it's a product that requires any type of certification whatsoever, ASTM or otherwise, I had to do this with safety fencing about 30 years ago. Bend strength, all of that, all those things were tested. We had to contact labs and they had to design methods of testing the bend strength of a fence. So it had to simulate a child trying to climb it and all that stuff. It really is intense, I guess would be the best way, and expensive, but a lot of fun. So I wholeheartedly agree. I hope to never have to do this again. So.
Yeah.
Rudy and Andrea will be right back with more Flocket Fridays after these messages.
Jack's Magic Products is your industry leader in identifying, removing, and preventing stains. How? With a range of high-performance, eco-friendly products, keeping pools safe, clean, and ready to use all year round. The Jack's Magic 3-step program is a quick and effective way to remove stains and scaling. First, we identify the problem, then our top-quality products will remove the discoloration. Finally, our preventative solutions will keep your pool looking like new for much longer. Get helpful tips and check out our product catalog today at jacksmagic.com.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable, and these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with a pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleanings faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Pool Magazine is the hottest new publication for the pool and spa industry, featuring up-to-the-minute news on what's happening in the pool world in a fresh new stylized format with our mobile-friendly app. Pool Magazine is the app for keeping your fingers on the pulse of the pool industry. You'll find featured news, editorials, podcasts, videos, and more on the Pool Magazine app. Download on Google Play and the App Store.
I will say everything that I've spoken about so far has side hustle potential. It's something that you can do on the side. It doesn't necessarily, depending on what the idea you have is, have to be your primary income. It's definitely something that can be your after work income, weekend income, depending on what the concept is, or just fit into your existing business model. The next thing I'm going to speak about is where I mean dive in. Typically, if you're going to get into manufacturing, it is going to end up being your 9 to 5 for the most part. Again, it depends on what the product is, how complicated it is, but never underestimate. And that's one thing I will say, the time and effort of R&D, and especially being in the pool industry, everything needs to be safe. So depending on what the product is, just if you are thinking of manufacturing, there's easier ways to wet your toes than if you are going to consider it. It should, just know what you're signing yourself up for, but also so many benefits and so exciting. If anyone's thinking manufacturing, I'd love to give you advice. So please reach out to me after this. So manufacturing is creating your product typically from scratch. It's typically creating your branding completely from scratch. It's designing your own product and either getting it manufactured or manufacturing it yourself, depending on your if you're like a handy person and you're able to actually physically make the product yourself. The benefits are you have complete control of your business from A to Z. And if you come up with a product that can be designed, patented, or patented, then you also don't risk the chance of having your brand copied later and your product copied later down the line. Downside, as we've spoken about, like it can be very expensive, especially if you're dealing with something in the pool industry that requires regulation, and it can be just super expensive. It's not just like the cost of the products; it's all the fluff that surrounds it that can really add up. So again, like this is like the best and the worst. It's the best if it's your dream and you're gonna like take it seriously and like give it all the love and attention. It's the worst if it's not, because this is the ultimate e-commerce model. Going on, digital products. This is something I was chatting to Rudy about. It is like a completely new thing to me, and we're going to speak about another model after this, but it is so cool that you can create something, you can create it in a couple of hours, you can list it online, and you can make money off of it for years and years to come if you come up with a good idea. Digital products are things like ebooks, educational products, templates, music, art. If you're good at graphic design, you could come up with different templates that, help people take care of their pools, educational pamphlets that someone may want to download and tweak for their service guys. Like maybe they want to have like a handbook that they print out and it's got all the information with their branded logo, ebooks, just anything that basically you go online, you say buy, and it's immediately yours, and you download it off the internet. Somewhere where this is very common is Etsy. I don't know if anyone's bought something off Etsy before, but you can buy images, all different sorts of things. And it's just, it's an incredible, you do need to have obviously some kind of graphic design connection, whether that's you or a family member or a friend. But once you got it sorted, or even just like a copywriting background, not necessarily copywriting, but author, if you're able to like write something that would be compelling. So I'm gonna twist it over my words here. But that's really digital products, and the most common place that they are sold is Etsy. But there are various other places and channels that you could sell them. And if you had your own website, that is also somewhere where you could sell a digital product. And then the last thing that's kind of connected to digital products, but not really, is print on demand. This is amazing. I've got Rudy's book there. I think this is the coolest thing ever. I was literally only introduced to it last year. That's how new it is to me, someone who spent 9 years in e-commerce. Print on demand is incredible because it doesn't require any outlay. You can design something. So you can design a graphic element that says like pools are cool, and you can have it printed on t-shirts, mugs, phone cases, you name it. There are print-on-demand partners that could print it on anything. And the only time you pay for it is when someone buys it. So yes, it takes your time. And yes, you are going to have to like come up with a graphic element, or in Rudy's case, write an entire book. But once you've got it loaded up, you can sell it indefinitely for the rest of time, and you don't have to do any of the legwork. It's all handled by your print-on-demand partner. So benefits is it's low risk. It's pretty easy to start. You've got low to no overheads. Downside is some things you can make a lot of money off, some things not so much. So mugs and t-shirts, typically you're not making a ton of money. If you're selling a book, you could be making significant income off of that. You have limited control in the sense that if your print on demand partner messes something up, you're going to be the one with the angry customer, and then you're going to have to relay it and sort it out with them. I see Rudy laughing because he shared that he had an issue before. And you don't have access to the people that are buying that product. So, and again, that is not in all situations, but typically if you're selling something via Amazon or other third-party sellers, they're going to want to keep their customer data. And so you're not able to target them later and say, by the way, I wrote how to get rid of swimming pool algae part 2, because they're the ones that retain that data. Okay, those are all of the different models that I've identified. It may not be every single one of them, but I would say it covers the good majority of e-commerce. If you guys have any questions, do you want to just put them in the chat now? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to this next.
While we're doing that, I wanted to share what the snafu was, so everybody has an idea of what you were referring to. That book has a bunch of good reviews. It did really, really well. It has 2 bad reviews. One, most recently from somebody who, I don't know, they just didn't like it. That's fine. The first bad review it had stated specifically, it gave me 1 star, and it said, the book was printed in reverse, the last page through the first. So even though I had nothing to do with it, I didn't print the book, I didn't assemble the book, I still took the hit for it. So you do have to watch for those things. But for the most part, everything has been phenomenal. But there is, every now and then, you'll see something like that pop up. Thank you, Sam.
It's never the end of the world, but it's just something to consider. Okay, so overview of options. So we don't have time to go through every single channel that you could possibly sell on. But if anybody does have any questions, post this and wants to deep dive with me, I'd love to do that. But basically, you have so many options. You have websites that will sell multiple products and sell your product on there, marketplaces as they're called, like Amazon, like Target Plus, like Walmart, like TikTok Shop, even to some extent Facebook and Meta. And then you have websites that you can build a website on, and they're also double as platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce, which is part of WooPress. And then again, lesser so marketplaces, but places where typically people will resell. So eBay, Facebook marketplaces, that's another option for you if you're considering reselling. Sorry, next. Okay, some of them are way easier to use. So Shopify, in my personal humble opinion, is far easier than using WordPress. It's really made for e-commerce in mind, and it's in all of the different platforms that I've used, the most easy to just sort of, take a weekend and kind of fiddle around and come up with something that looks relatively good because of the templates that they have and the way that they've designed it. Amazon, for the most part, is user-friendly, but I will say that I find that their customer service is less than helpful when things go wrong. And Walmart is extremely complicated, and it's like their customer service does not even speak English when something goes wrong. So some of them are really user-friendly and easy. Some of them are really it's worth it, obviously, but you're going to be banging your head against the wall. Some of them have super high fees, and some of them don't have very high fees at all. So if you're going to be selling on your own website, you're typically going to be paying for the hosting fee of the website and sometimes a small referral fee. if you're selling on Amazon, you're going to be paying quite a chunk of money to Amazon as their referral. And then you're also going to be paying on top of that for the fulfillment and storage in their warehouses. So some are going to be more profitable than others. Some you can very easily customize, others you cannot. Some of them have built-in marketing SEO tools. Some you're going to really have to build them from the ground up. Some of them have great customer support, others are horrific. So it's something to take into consideration. And when you are looking at them, so say you decide you want to come up with a Shopify website, there are a lot of like Reddit forums. Amazon has its own forum. There's a lot of places that you can look and see, you know, how people have found working with them and their recommendations for whether or not whether or not it would be a good match for you. And again, if you don't get lucky there, just reach out to me. I'm happy to give you my opinions and also just let you know my experience with the different platforms. This slide is difficult because there's so many things to consider. So I just kind of top-lined some of the ones that I think are the best. And the number one thing that I recommend you do if you want to sell online is try to get good photographs of the thing that you are selling. The very first thing people see, whether it's your website or they've discovered on Instagram or they find it on Amazon, is your product photography. So never underestimate how your product looks. And with the apps that we have these days, it's really easy to get a good photograph. There's some that will remove the background and put it on a nice, crisp white background. Just make sure that you get your product in good lighting and just borrow like a nice iPhone from a friend if you don't have one of them yourself. But yeah, I can't stress how important it is to have good photography on your listing. Some of the tips that I have here are use natural lighting, show the product in use if you can, consider lifestyle shots if you can. This is something that even we struggle with. The next thing that is really important is the product descriptions. And the reason I put that in is because it's not just writing something that's super creative. Your SEO is essential, especially if you're selling on a marketplace. So while something may sound really nice, if it's not being searched, no one will ever find it. So really diving in, there are, if you're on Amazon, there are like back end reports that will be pulled and they'll kind of tell you what people are searching. And you can make sure that you get the most important keywords right at the beginning of your listing. Your pricing strategy, you want to look at the competitors around you and try to get yourself as close to them as possible. If you can beat them, even better. If you're selling a premium product, then lean into that. Consider your profit margins, like look at what it's going to take to cover all of your fixed and variable expenses and make sure that at the end of the day, you are making a profit. And then you can also offer bundle deals or discounts to really get yourself going and gain momentum.
Sam, I'm going to jump in. We have a question from the chat.
Yes.
Scott's asking, what is your take on paid per-click advertising for products through Google AdWords?
So, Scott, are you meaning to a website or to a marketplace specifically? Because my feelings differ depending on where you're referring to.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah, great question. Well, both, but specifically for this, to an online store.
Yeah.
Because a lot of.
So if you're selling on an online store and you're looking on PPC for Google, I think that it is essential for something that is searchable, like something that is being searched. I'm thinking in terms of your and sorry, I need to think about this before I answer. If it's something that's not being searched, so I'm picking on my sister right now, which is horrible and it's completely unrelated. My sister is a beautiful jewelry designer, incredible. She makes stunning fine jewelry and it's all African inspired and beautiful. And she asks me all the time, Sam, I want to do PPC. And I say to her, I'm sorry, no one's searching African jewelry. It just not something that they randomly go into Google and say African jewelry. And typically if they are, it's for like a costume party, or they're looking for something that is like traditional beaded African jewelry. It's like the search intent is not there. And that's not obviously like going to relate to in our case. But if it is something that people are actually searching, like how can I test my pool at home? Like what can I use to, how can I have accurate pool tests like the ones they have at Leslie's? Then I do think that search could be, should be something that you focus on. I struggle specifically with Google because it doesn't always necessarily give me the conversions that I want. And that can be really hard when you're deciding where you want to spend your money, because it's so much, when you can see incredible conversions on other platforms. And for example, if you're selling on Amazon, your Amazon pay-per-click is typically where you get a much higher return on your advertisement spend. But if it is something that is searchable, if you are trying to grow it and there is search intent, I do think that there is a benefit to doing PPC on Google. What I would recommend, and I'm not a PPC expert, I've been exposed. I don't know if anyone is a PPC expert at this point, because I've been exposed to it for 5 years. And I still feel like I'm way outside of my depth. And I'm like convinced that everyone in PPC is like fake it till you make it, because everyone's drowning in like the Google world. But yeah, if you are doing it to a website, absolutely, I think that it is beneficial. If you sell on Amazon, sorry, I say Amazon a lot, but that's typically like where I work nowadays. There are platforms that I can recommend that will do Google to Amazon. But if you're doing on Google to Amazon, it's like a complete waste of time, because the attribution is just a mess. And I think, again, like if you're trying to explain your ad spend, like you should think of it more on like an acquisition level rather than a conversion, because Google the attribution is just like really not, I think it's like, sorry, I'm like, it's so confusing that even like me, myself, I'm not unable to like properly communicate it to you. But yeah, my short answer is yes, it's worth it, but you should do it like for the right reason. Like going into it, know that it's going to just build your awareness, and it's not going to necessarily be like for every $1 you make 5.
And Google's constantly changing their strategy, and recently going, to event-based and transition into GA4. So if you don't have someone that can really focus on PPC, it is a little bit more risky, especially in this landscape right now, where they're constantly changing everything.
Yeah. Google. I think if you get a good PPC person and they're able to crack that code for you, which does occasionally happen, that that can change your business. But it really, I've seen so much variability. I've seen brands that thrive on Google, and you're able to like get all the attribution working, and it like bolsters the Amazon algorithm. And I've seen some that just completely fall flat. And I'll be honest, like I'd say 75 to 80% of the brands that I've worked on, it's really a struggle, and you really have to motivate for why you continue on Google versus other areas that seem to just give you like much better attribution and much better conversion.
We also have a question from Sean Assam. He's with Horner Aquacal. He has our question statement. Hold on a second. I'm just going to read through it. It's on the Facebook page, so I do want to make sure I get to these as well. And Sean says, regarding pricing strategy, keep MAAP relevant, especially for manufacturers who enforce MAAP, or I'm going to assume we can pronounce it MAP, but I'm not an e-commerce person, so I don't know. I'll spell diatomaceous earth all day long, forwards and backwards. But however, as a manufacturer, how do I enforce it if the seller company won't respond to calls, emails, and other forms of contact? Even worse, when the seller has very little information as to who they are.
So again, like that's, yeah, I've had that issue a lot. MAP is, so just to everyone on the call, MAP stands for minimum advertised price. And MAP is a complete headache for people selling online, because if someone drops their price below your MAP, it has ramifications for your Amazon listing. You could lose the little button that says buy now. Like Amazon is mean. Amazon will punish you. They'll take that away, and it can just have like cascading issues. And so that's why it's so important as an online seller to make sure that the people that are reselling your product are abiding by MAP. I have had issues with resellers selling our product at lower than MAP prices. It was only an issue when they sold on platforms that were scourable by Google. So sometimes there's like random reseller websites, like funny names, and thank goodness Amazon doesn't take that into account. But if you're asking me the question, I'm assuming that it's someone that they are picking it up and it is causing issues for you. If you are able to track your product by a lot code, you should try to hunt down where the leak is coming from and how they are getting your product in the first place. You're unable to get hold of them. So if you could contact them, you could offer to like buy back your inventory. Essentially, you're just going to have to stop selling to them, because my understanding is that enforcing MAP through legal, through like the legal route is like impossible, and like you won't get anywhere, unfortunately. And I will say something else, just referring back to like trademarks. It's not always as easy to enforce things as it should be. Like, you think that you get a design patent or a trademark and everything's cut and dry and people just behave, and they just don't. And that's unfortunately like just something that happens in the industry. So again, just going back to MAP, I think trying to like cut off the source of the leak, try to stop them getting any more inventory in the future. And if all else fails, maybe speak to someone with a legal background. But just the people that I have consulted with in the past have all said it's really like, unfortunately, not something that you are, unless like it just basically wouldn't be, you'd end up spending so much money, you'd never get that back. So that's kind of the opinions that have been shared with me in the past.
I apologize. Sean has added that it's usually through SCP or through Heritage.
Okay. So, and they're not abiding by MAP? Do they have, I'm assuming you would have signed a MAP agreement when you first joined with them.
The response as it, I don't think it's in real time, so give it just a second there, Sam, on that one.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a delay.
You would sign a MAP agreement. So if they are violating their MAP agreement, that's something that I think like you could speak to like someone with a legal background about, especially if they're as big as SCP or Heritage.
Well, the seller isn't. They buy from distribution and sell at whatever they want to. So we're talking about people who are buying from distribution, Sean, to be correct, and then just selling it. Okay, I get where you're coming from. So folks are buying it from distribution and selling it at very, very low margins, I'm assuming, is what's going on?
Yeah, that's really tricky. Rudy, do you want to just...
Did you want me to take his information and we can get back to him in the future? Sean, I have your stuff, or you could fire me over a phone or something.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can do that. And for anybody who has any,
that's difficult to control, because I think they're protected by reseller like laws, which is basically once you've like bought something from the main seller, you can resell it, and the original manufacturer doesn't really have much control over that. Yeah, that is unfortunate.
That is exactly the case in what's going on. So that's unfortunate, and that is something that I think we all deal with to some extent. It would be great if there's a solution. So Sean, what we're going to do is Sam wants a little bit more time on that one, and we'll get back to you with a more detailed answer in the future. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
I'll reach out.
He said that was very helpful thus far, so he really appreciates it. So cool
helpful
beans.
and helpful, because I can't solve the problem. It's truly is a headache. I mean, in the past, when I worked for big companies, when someone would come onto our Amazon listing and try sell something below the retail price, we would buy all of their inventory. So that's not helpful to your average person who's running their own business that doesn't have like a big company behind it. It's really like a huge issue in the industry. But yeah, I'll think a little bit more about it. I'll speak to some of my ex-colleagues and just see if they've like come up with any new strategies to get around map issues. But yeah, typically like speaking to the source or cutting off the bleed is what we would do if possible. Okay, so this is my last slide. So thank you everyone for bearing with me, especially during my like brain fart moments where I get like overwhelmed by thoughts. Marketing your e-commerce store, it is going to be critical for you to do some form of marketing. Unfortunately, people aren't going to find your products by themselves. Be that especially if you're having your own website, like you have to, work that from the ground up. If you're going to sell on Amazon, even there, it would be nice if you listed it and just showed up on the front page, but it's unlikely. So you are going to have a strategy for marketing your product. Social media is free. So I like social media, especially if you already have a big following, that's helpful. That being said, if you don't have a big following, you are probably going to have to do some social media advertising. Instagram and Pinterest are really popular if you have something that's very visual. TikTok is amazing, and if you're able to be creative there, that's also somewhere where you can get pretty far without having to spend too much money. Email marketing is great if you have an email database, or you can build up an email database. If you are going to be like visiting any of the trade shows coming up, it's a good place where you can get people to give you a business card, and you can build up a email marketing list there. You can do all different kinds of emails, welcome emails, product announcements, seasonal promotions, as well as just like general informational emails, and that can help you sell and build up a community there. Paid advertising, that's what we were speaking about earlier. PPC is a whole beast. Like that could be a presentation in itself. If enough people are interested, I'm sure Rudy could talk about it. And like I said, it's such at least to me, like a complicated industry, and everyone there is learning so much. Google Ads is definitely the biggest. If you have something that is being searched, that has search intent, it's an amazing place for people to find your product. Social media is good. Some places are more expensive than others. Facebook is more expensive. TikTok is a little bit more affordable, at least for now. And then you can do other things like videos, YouTube videos. You can create blog posts if you have something that's bloggable. And if you're able to incorporate a lot of SEO into your blog posts, then that's something that could rank organically on Google or be hyperlinked to other websites. So those are all areas that you can look at. Again, that doesn't encompass all of them. It's just a couple. But yeah, that is things that you can think about when you're marketing your website. So now we go on to just sort of my wrap-up slides. Does anybody else have any more questions on Facebook or Zoom? While we wait, I just want to say thank you to everyone for bearing with me. This is my first time giving like a presentation to people. So if I was like speaking really fast or yeah, I'm really excited to be in sort of like an educational space. It's not something that's natural to me. Normally I'm like in a crowd of people that know as much or even more about different platforms than I do. So it is exciting to have absorbed all of that information over my 9 years and be able to share it with you guys.
I have nothing else in the chat. I have nothing else in the questions on Facebook at this time. So Samantha, fantastic job. Thank you. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you if they have further questions.
Sure. There actually is one question that just popped in. Scott asked, do you see drop shipping as transitioning step to reselling so your business has more control of your product for your customers? Yes, it could be. It totally could be. If you want to come up with a website that has like a whole bunch of products on it just to see what works, and then you realize, man, I'm like sending all this business over to these people and, you know, they're taking a bunch of time, or you know, they're not giving me the profit margins that I want. It absolutely is something that you could change over to reselling at that point, especially if you have a physical storefront and people are buying something a ton and they're like, oh, we love this product. Like it could be a good testing ground to see if something would work in your physical store. So yeah, I do think drop shipping is definitely a place to test for reselling. And where can people get a hold of me? You can email me at samantha@easyblue.com, or you can just reach out. I am also the social media gal on EasyBlue. So when you're messaging EasyBlue, you're messaging me. So yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to help.
I'll share Samantha's contact information as well. On the
spot, I'll do a better job of helping.
I think you did fantastic. I think you definitely brought a lot of new points to light. So I do want to thank you. And I was saving this to tell you because I don't know if I'm pretty sure you're not aware, but 480 people is how many people you reached tonight across social media alone. So that's how many plays there have been. Not everybody for all of it, but for a good part of it. So that's a pretty good number of people.
I'm glad you only told me now because I was already like hands sweating.
I was waiting till we were done. So, but everybody, Samantha, do reach out to her. Just a moment before we do go, the IPSA virtual chapter, this thing that I'm doing here, right? To reach out to areas that don't have a chapter in their area so folks can still be involved, so they can still have the camaraderie, so they can still have the benefit. You know, the biggest thing I get is, how are you going to do route coverage? Like that's the only thing IPSA has to offer. It's not true, but I did want to find bonus material, bonus content for new members to this virtual chapter because they can't necessarily take advantage of that the in-person chapters can. So Buffer Zone, Peter Legaz, he's on with us actually now from Australia, has pool service software. And we do still have, Peter and I got together, we said we were going to give a certain amount of people free pool service software to use going forward, as long as they are in this virtual chapter. So anybody who wants to join, we do have a few members who've already taken advantage of that I have to get the information to. Anybody else who wants to become part of the virtual chapter, go to ipsa.com, sign up. As long as you're in an area that doesn't have an existing chapter, they will send you to me. And if they don't send you to me and they send you to another chapter, that's okay. Do that too. You can still come back here the third Wednesday of every month and check out what we have going on, because this is open to everybody. We want to not exclude anyone. Education should be about educating all of us. That's how we get to that next level, not just educating a few of us, but definitely for those of you that are not in a chapter area, sign up, join, take advantage of that free pool service software. It's called Buffer Zone for you guys right now. And there will be other bonus content coming up in the future. Who knows? There may be additional meetings with insider information. I don't know. Anything is possible. For those of you that know me, you know that you should expect the unexpected. What about the ability to lower cyanuric acid? We know now that we can do it. Aluminum sulfate will lower cyanuric acid. It's been proven. But how many people know this? Also, go ahead.
Listeners of the show know all these things.
Listeners of the show know these things, but why does the public at large not have this information available to them? Who's keeping them from getting it?
They don't listen to the show.
But why aren't all of the trade associations and all of the publications and all of the books out there including this information, which could serve the betterment of the industry? Is it because we make more money doing it this way and we don't want to change? Not meaning the pool service person, but maybe the manufacturers. They don't want this information to get around because it's better.
Maybe that's why everybody argues with me about trichlor too, because I don't know. That's a good question.
We also have learned that
we're making more money on black algae, whatever the shit that fuck is.
The active ingredient in that is silver. The maximum allowed of silver that you're allowed to have in a swimming pool is 0.1 parts per million. So tell me, who in those posts or in those statements, who in those statements have added this product and actually have had a test kit for silver where they went behind it and made sure they didn't add too much?
I have no idea, but you know what? I think I'm going to start asking them.
Which one among you owns a silver test kit? Yeah. So shouldn't you, if you're responsible dosing, if you're adding silver and there's a maximum acceptable level, then you should have a test kit to ensure you do not exceed that level. We tell people that with borates, and everybody's accepting of it with borates. If we add borates to the pool, we can't exceed 50 parts per million. Boom, we got a borate test kit. Why don't we do the same thing with silver? Do we do it with copper? That's the other question. Do we? How many people that are adding copper sulfate have a copper test kit?
Let us know, talkingpools@gmail.com, if you have a silver test kit that you use after adding silver or copper that you test for. Let us know.
There you go.
We want to hear from you.
Because I bet you, I would be almost willing to go out on a limb and say that I don't know anyone who operates in the field with a silver test kit.
I don't either, but I also don't know anybody that uses silver because I don't know anyone around here who sells it.
Silvertrine, Black Algae.
No, that's on
Barbie Trine, Ken and Barbie.
That's on the internet.
Whatever.
That's on the internet that I see people say Algae and Silvertrine.
So people don't. Here's another one. The means to lower calcium hardness chemically exists. An alum, not alum this time.
Aluminum.
Here, sodium bicarbonate.
Lowers
if
calcium.
you add that in a large enough dose, right, you'll create calcium carbonate. Have you ever added calcium chloride and sodium bicarbonate at the same time? You get that big white cloud in the pool?
I have never done it, but I know what happens, yes.
Okay, and you've seen people do it. It's a chemical reaction. Bicarbonate and calcium chloride, when they're dry, no big deal. But when they get wet, then there's a chemical reaction, produces 4 different things. You'll get a little bit of salt, a little bit of water. You get a whole bunch of carbon dioxide and then calcium carbonate. That's what makes the pool white. And it stays white until the filter can filter it out. So the folks at On Balance, in their efforts to help the folks that face drought restrictions, same reasons that we were looking into, or we came up with the method of lowering cyanuric acid. When you can't replace your water, what do? That's why we came up with that. Not the end all tell all. I still believe draining and refilling is better, but in some areas you cannot. Them, with the same thought process in mind, found that if you added a large enough dose of that you could create calcium carbonate that would either be filtered out or settle to the bottom, and you could vacuum to waste and lower the calcium hardness level fairly significantly. Why isn't that common knowledge?
As long as you didn't add it back in when you refilled the pool.
But I'm going to teach you 3 times a week in different classes that I conduct that the only way to lower calcium hardness is to drain and refill the pool. Then I'm going to teach you, because it's not my program, that the only way to lower cyanuric acid is to drain and refill the pool. How much more in chemicals are you going to spend because you've drained and refilled the pool to get it back into balance than you would have if you could have added $10 worth of aluminum sulfate to drop the cyanuric acid, right?
$15 worth
and then have soda. Everything still be in balance. Maybe your pH a little bit low. It needs a little bit of a boost, but outside of that, not a major change. So there's a lot of things like this out there that we know we're not teaching. Here's another one. Roy Vore, friend of the show, microbiologist, microphysiologist. Remember, I got it wrong that one time. He yelled at me. But in either case, he looks at little tiny bugs, right? He used to work at BioGuard, but he still does work for the industry. He still does a lot of consulting work. He actually sat down and went through all of the records for reported recreational water illnesses in this country and determined that over the last 2 decades, that Pseudomonas, that's the bacteria that gives you swimmer's ear, has resulted in more deaths than Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and Legionella combined. Do you remember we had him on the show and he spoke about that?
I do. That was a really interesting conversation. You should go back and listen to it if you haven't.
So shouldn't the bigger conversations we have in the industry then be about preventing Pseudomonas instead of if somebody poops in the pool, you treat for Giardia. If somebody has diarrhea, you treat for Crypto. You know, if you have a spa, your biggest threat is Legionella. Guess what? No, it's not. This Pseudomonas stuff is because it's killed so many more people.
But isn't it super easy to kill? It's like 1 part per million of chlorine is all you need.
Yes. And that's fine. It doesn't matter that it's easy to kill. It should be a major focus. If that's what's killing people, that should be the major focus. And it's sad.
I just mean that
that's easy to kill.
I just mean that that's what I meant. Like, it's so easy to kill. You only need 1 part per million. It shouldn't be that big of an issue.
It's fucking depressing that this information doesn't go out.
Definitely.
That people don't know these things.
We talk about and have a solution for, because that's just silly. 1 part per million. Why do you have less than that?
And shouldn't we spend a lot of time on that, talking about it, being that this is the thing that kills the most people in recreational bodies of water? No. Instead, we talk about these other things that in comparison rarely occur. And I think that we're doing ourselves an injustice. Someone is doing us an injustice. We're focusing on the wrong things. Not that those other things aren't important. Not that there aren't other ways, but if somebody brings a new way to the table, and not just because a couple of the things we spoke about are things that I did, but if somebody brings a new method to the table that actually is better, quicker, easier, makes the pool pro more profitable, not the chemical company, then this information should spread like wildfire, shouldn't it?
It should.
But it doesn't. So people want to hang on to the old ways. You know how many people are fucking up pools by making acid columns in order to lower total alkalinity? You know how many people probably did that today?
And fuck up some plaster and cause like an erosion stain or like, yeah, I mean...
15 years ago? I don't know. How long ago was 2014? I guess it was 10 years ago. Either way, 2014, I wrote an article for Pool and Spa News. It was called Soda Ash versus Baking Soda. And it spoke about when to add what and how much of what to add. And then I did a cost comparison of what it would cost to increase your pH using soda ash versus what it would cost to increase your pH using bicarb. And every single time, soda ash was the less expensive route to go. And I mentioned that when both your pH and total alkalinity were low, you could use soda ash because it would increase both a good amount. Versus if you went with baking soda, it really just increases the total alkalinity a lot and the pH just a little bit. You'd have to use a lot of baking soda to get the pH to move just a little. And the biggest thing that comes back to me is, oh, no. You've got to adjust the total alkalinity first.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say we weren't doing that? When I said use soda ash, does that mean that I don't adjust the total alkalinity first?
I guess it does.
I'm increasing.
It does not mean that.
Soda ash will increase both the pH. Soda ash will increase both the pH and the total alkalinity. So all I'm saying is use the soda ash to increase your friggin' total alkalinity. I'm not telling you to go outside of your order of application. And then who cares? You can adjust the pH before you adjust the total alkalinity if you wanted to. Just because there's a rule of thumb
Dun, dun, dun.
In either case, this article
Everybody gets a
has
scratch.
been the top trending. This has been the top trending article on Pool and Spa News for the last decade.
Is mine underneath yours?
One other article that's been in the number 2 spot for almost the entirety of that time. It falls in and out, but it's always there. And that is yours.
I know it got bumped out a couple of times. Yeah. Well, it's not my article. I didn't write it. But it's I provided the information, and it's definitely about me, and I'm quoted and my name's in it. It's about the magic erasers.
For immediate release, professional pool guy joins Bunker Heights as associate producer. July 8th, 2024, 30-year veteran of the swimming pool industry, Rudy Stankovic, author, columnist, and executive producer of the popular Talking Pools podcast, is excited to announce his involvement with the film Bunker Heights. Stankovic, originally from Long Island and now residing in Florida, is known for his podcast, contributions to the swimming pool industry, technical books, children's book series, Pig Tot, and psychological thriller Blades of Glass. Bunker Heights, a genre-bending film written and directed by Drew Fortier, delves into the complexities of a troubled city facing a catastrophic crisis. Blending elements of crime, horror, and dark comedy, the film promises a gripping narrative that follows the lives of its citizens as they navigate a looming threat that jeopardizes their very existence. Under the production of Hannah Fireman, known for her work in V/H/S, Dark Circles, and Siren, and featuring special effects by Derek Weirley, Late Checkout, Crust, and cinematography by Gordon Cameron, her name was Krista. Bunker Heights is set to be a cinematic experience like no other. The film, currently in post-production, boasts an ensemble cast including Drew Fortier, Hannah Fireman, Chaney Morrow, Paul T. Taylor, Floyd Ewing Jr., Douglas Esper, James L. Edwards, Daniel John Kearney, Elsie Holt, Xander Goldman, Christopher Robin Koch, and notable talent from the music world such as David Ellefson, Violent J, Vinnie Dombrowski, Lance Eric, James Legg, and Bass Amp. I am excited at the opportunity to be a part of the Bunker Heights film, to work with Hannah and Drew, and to open the door to future endeavors in the horror genre, said Rudy Stankovic. I am a huge fan of horror movies, and to have even a small part in the creation of one is an honor. Writer and director Drew Fortier said, "We are excited to rope Rudy into our fun little world of Bunker Heights as associate producer. He has been an essential component in helping wrap up post-production for the film. We are ecstatic to show the world what we have created. Though there is no solid release date at this moment, it will be worth the wait." Hannah Fireman, producer of Bunker Heights, said, "We are thrilled to have Rudy on board as an AP for post-production. He swooped in after principal photography and helped us find funds for post, which is hugely helpful. As the film enters its final stages of production, with no release date set yet, the anticipation continues to build. Bunker Heights promises an unforgettable viewing experience with its blend of compelling storytelling and outstanding performances."
Actually, that just came up recently again. Someone tagged me. And you know what else too? I found out a bunch of other pool like online pool stores and pool blogs and stuff also use that article. So when you go to like Inyo Pools and you ask and you look at their article their answer is the article, and I'm quoted, it says Nanini says, like, my name's in all these fucking pool store blogs. It's pretty cool still. But anyway, magic erasers are bad.
The viral post put out by Lisa Pack about the magic eraser being able to take algae out of the swimming pool within 12 to 24 hours. Remember, I spoke to her.
What do you think I should do with those jars? I do remember that.
I spoke to her too, and she said, "Well, I never said it had algae. I just said it was a little bit hazy. It doesn't matter. Still didn't work. Coincidental, as far as we're concerned. Actually, could cause more harm than good, is what you had found. And if you still have those jars of algae from 8 years ago with magic erasers floating in them, I can only say that magic erasers probably promote algae growth." If the algae is still alive in a sealed friggin' jar after 10 years, it's dead.
No. The algae is not still alive. It is dead, and it has been dead. But the magic erasers are still 100% there, not eroded. The magic erasers are totally fine, still intact. Now, I don't know how they would be if I opened the jars and took them out, but none of the other jars have algae. Only the jar that I put algae in purposely has algae. So none of the other jars have like grown any algae. But I also did, what did I do? I took some water. I took some water from the jar that had, from one of the clean water jars that had a magic eraser. And I was able to use that as number 13 reagent. So I was able to test
which is a melamine
cyanuric
solution.
acid with the water that had been soaking in the magic eraser. So there's
and
a
of
fun
course,
science
magic
gadget.
erasers are melamine foam. Melamine being the ingredient in test solution 13. When you add that to water that has a cyanuric acid level, it complexes and you get melamine cyanurate, which is insoluble, and that's how that test works. The greater the level of cyanuric acid, the greater the level of melamine cyanurate, the harder it is to see the dot. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. They also contain formaldehyde, which can interact badly with chlorine. And I also emailed Mr. Clean and asked them, and they said, we do not recommend.
You responded.
Yeah, I still have the screenshot. It's still around. They told me specifically that they do not recommend using magic erasers in swimming pools.
Mr.
Because
Clean,
because they said that ingredients can interfere with the pool chemicals. I believe it's I'd have to look at the screenshot again, but we can.
So where are we going?
I'll find it.
Where are we going wrong? I'm going to put this question out to everybody, and definitely thank you everybody for tuning in to listen to us. I don't even know if we announced the beginning of the show or not. I'm Rudy. This is Andrea. Hey, sorry about that.
We didn't.
We just kind of went off on
Andrea,
a tangent
here,
but that's okay. You know what? We're both having one of those days, but thank you for tuning in. We love you guys. We appreciate you. But here's the question. Where are we failing in getting this information out? We have this information. It's almost a decade old, at least a half a decade old on a lot of these things. It's not common knowledge in the industry. So where is it failing? Is it the chemical manufacturers? Is it equipment manufacturers? I don't want to just say, single out the chemical folks. Is it the publications?
Or the old pool guys that want to hang on to the same shit they've been doing for 47 years. 98 years, however long.
So they hear it and they huck to it, right?
Oh my God. We're done. I am closing this podcast. I am leaving. I quit the entire world.
Then there's also people that must live under a fucking rock to not have this information at this point in time. We're failing somewhere in the delivery of information.
I envy you. If you really want my opinion, it's not that the information is not there. It's that, like I said from the beginning and like I just now said, and I'm not trying to be a dick, I'm just going by what I see based on comments and interactions on social media and even in person, because now I'm dealing with that with an employee kind of change that I'm dealing with. It's people think that they know the right way to do it, and there's only that way to do it. And so there are different ways of doing things. There are new ways of doing things, and just because you think that you've been doing it this way for, like I said, 32 years or however long, I've been doing it 22 years, but, maybe do something different for like maybe one or two pools and see how it works for you. If you don't like it, go back to doing it the other way, but stop telling other people who are asking questions and who are getting other advice from, say, people like us, because I'll recommend a bunch of different ways of doing things. And to go back to the trichlor thing, I get that same response when I be like, hey, here's a good way to treat the trichlor, and I get 100 comments of why that's a bad idea. And it's like, I get why it's a bad idea, but here's why it's a good idea and why it might work for this person. And that's what the problem is there's just so many people that are stuck in that one old way of doing things, and they don't want to let anybody else do anything different. And that was my rant. I'll stop. Sorry. But
so
that's
you
my
think
opinions.
It's being the flow of information is being thwarted by people that are closed-minded.
Correct. Oh, that's a good way to
sum
put
it up.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Everybody
Stop
listening.
Being curmudgeons. Stop being salty.
And not the people that are listening. I know you guys are open. But if you have ideas on how to help this information spread quicker, spread more freely, get to the places where it needs to get to.
.com.
Yeah.
And let us know your ideas.
talkingpools@gmail.com. Until next time, be good, be safe.
What's your problem? And let us know how we can fix it.
There you go. You know the spiel. We don't need to say it every time. We'll catch you guys later. Thank you for tuning in.
Follow
We
us,
love
like us, blah, 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 blah.
That, what she said.